you're on now, so take it away when you're ready. Talk about whatever you want.
Well, I don't know. Do you have like any questions? Like,
Again, like you gotta pick the topic, and then I'll ask you questions.
I know I'm really bad at it though. I mean.
Yeah, I know I'm not very good at it either, but like this is just the one rule, I guess, of this channel.
Okay. Well, I can talk about music. I can talk about like history.
Tell me about history. If you want.
What do you mean?
I don't know. You said you could tell me about history, or like share something cool about.
Do you want like something cool or something gross? Like.
Why not a mixture of both?
Like I know a bunch about like Victorian history.
Okay.
Like English Victorian, obviously.
Like what?
Like house stuff, like arsenic wallpaper.
Okay. Tell me about arsenic wallpaper.
It's really weird that I'm talking about that. I think I would rather talk about music.
You don't want to talk about arsenic wallpaper?
No.
Okay, sure. Talk about music.
It seems like weird for a YouTube channel to just talk about arsenic wallpaper.
I'm curious now about this, but like, if you want to dodge it, it's up to you.
I can tell you that, I don't know, anything green in the Victorian time was made of arsenic.
And that's like no good, right? No good?
No, arsenic gives you poisoning.
Yeah.
And pretty much kills you over, so.
Yeah, so why didn't they all die though?
They did.
Oh.
Very much did.
Right.
They,
unlucky.
kind of connected it, and then the wallpaper companies were like, it's not us, I swear.
How long ago was this exactly?
So, Victorian period is like, I want to say, I'm probably not exactly right, but it's like 1870 to 1900.
That's fairly recent. That's like really recent.
That's not too recent.
Like relative to the grand scheme of things, it's pretty recent. It was like 100 years ago.
Well,
People's like great grandparents were like alive at that point. Some people still have grandparents that are that old, I think.
No.
It's close, right? You said
I have
like
a great grandma. She's World War II.
Okay, but you said like 1900, right?
Yeah, the year 1900.
Yeah.
World War II didn't start until
Yeah, but
1930.
1900 is like 120 years ago, right? There's people that are 120 years old, or close to.
Not really, not anymore. Maybe like one or two.
There's one or two, right? So there's like still people alive from that time. That's relatively recent.
I suppose.
Right? Relative to like, I don't know, like Jesus. Like 2000 years.
Jesus is BC.
Yeah. Well, AD, because he was born, right?
Yeah, sorry. It's like, I don't know.
By definition.
I'm not good with religion.
Yeah, same. Well,
Not
no.
too
I know a decent chunk, but just because of like
I just don't want
vehement opposition to religion.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I personally don't really care about anyone's beliefs, like not like in that way, but like I don't care what people believe.
Really? I think that's weird. I think that's a weird stance to take.
That I don't care if people have a religion or not?
You didn't say religion. You
well,
said
I mean,
belief,
like,
right?
I meant belief in religion because we were talking about religion.
Sure, but like, what distinguishes religion from other beliefs?
Well,
really,
like, just I don't know, not much. I mean, like, some moral beliefs, like, I don't agree with. So, like, technically, that's not entirely true. If I were to say that I don't care about anything.
About some people's beliefs. Okay.
But I mean, like, if something that someone is doing is not hurting anyone else, then
what
I
if
don't
it
care.
is? What if straight up is, but they're like hiding under the guise of religion?
That happens a lot. You're right.
So
that does happen a lot. I'm personally not religious, but I'm saying I don't care if. Is this are we gonna talk about religion?
It looks like we're going down this path.
Okay.
So
I personally don't care if it's not bothering anyone. Like if it's something that's harmless.
I would easily argue that there's 0 religions that exist today that don't harm anybody and are harmless. Or sorry, that's the same thing. That don't affect other people and are harmless. That's not a thing. It's impossible. Like, why would they even exist if they don't?
Well, I mean, there's some peaceful. Like, they're not necessarily.
Which ones? Name them.
Well, give me a second, because I'm really.
If you need a second, that's not good. Like,
no, I know.
That's really bad, right? That's a bad sign.
But if you
for religions,
I know there's a lot of religions that a lot of people that don't follow religions the way that they're intended. I guess that's just what I've heard because I'm not a religious person.
They just cherry pick, right?
Yeah, they do cherry pick.
Yeah, because there's horrible shit in religions.
Oh yeah, exactly. There's a lot of I know most about the Bible, if anything. I don't really know a lot about other religions. religions.
Right. But you see how that's like really weird, right? Like you sat here, you said I don't care what people believe, but you obviously meant that about religions, right? And not about other beliefs, right? Because I've told you, like, there was somebody who's a Nazi, right?
Yeah.
But they cherry pick Nazism to like take out some of the bad parts.
You can't cherry pick it.
I'm sure you could. There's definitely ways that you could cherry pick Nazism, right? That's not all awful, right?
Cherry pick racism, essentially. Well,
Nazism isn't like straight up racism, right? It's like National Socialism, so you could be like,
it's
yeah, but like sure, there's like huge bits of Nazism that's anti-Semitic, right?
Yeah.
But there's also like tons of stuff about like workers' rights, for example, right?
Okay.
Right. So like if you just cherry pick that and you're like, I'm a Nazi.
That's really
right. But people do that with religion, right? And it's fine.
Oh yeah.
So like,
I don't think it's fine. I don't think that's fine.
So, but that's like pretty normalized, right? To cherry pick religions and then be like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian or Muslim or whatever, but I don't believe in X, Y, and Z parts of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I find that that's pretty common. Is people will pick a religion and then be like, they'll agree with certain parts, but then contradict themselves by not agreeing with the rest of it. They'll pick like a certain part of the scripture, and that's really not how it works.
And the weird part is, for me, is like religion is supposed to be from like a deity, like an all-knowing, all-powerful, way intelligent being. So it should be pretty flawless, right? That's the one that shouldn't need to be cherry-picked. If anything, you could argue that Hitler was like fucked up in the head. So if we take his ideas and filter out the shit parts, then you could get some good parts, right? You can't do that about like God. Because, like,
that's fair.
By definition, he has to know better than you.
Well, I think it's is it who's the space guy? Is it Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Tyson?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a space guy, but he's like a physicist. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. He talks. I remember him talking about space. That's all.
Okay.
But he said that something about God was that people claim that their God is all-knowing and all-good.
Right.
But one of those things has to be a lie, because if God is all-knowing, or I mean all-good, or what is it? All-powerful. It's all-powerful and all-good.
Yeah.
So if God is all-powerful, or I mean, I should start with all-good. Sorry, I am all over the place. If God is all-good, then why does he let good people die, right?
Mysterious ways. Don't you know? God works in mysterious ways?
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but I mean, if people think that, that's not necessarily harmful if they just think that to themselves, you know?
Okay, but you can't think that to yourself. That's not like you can't think anything to yourself. That's not how things work. Like, even if you're a sports fan, that's not even like
people can think things and never
express their things. No, I don't think it's a thing.
I really,
unless you're like some sort of like pedophile who wants to make sure your idea is hidden. I feel like most of the time, like say you're a Red Wings fan, you're gonna wear a jersey, you might wear a cap, you might think it's your own personal thing, but there's definitely like projections to the outer world.
That's fair.
Right?
I see what you're saying.
So like,
but anyway, back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
He says that he's one of those things has to be a lie. He said they're not all good or he's not all powerful, because if he was all good people wouldn't die, children wouldn't die from leukemia, things like that. You know, we wouldn't have these issues. It's either he's not all good and he allows those people to die, or he's not all powerful and he can't save them. Well,
from a Christian perspective, I think the argument against is like something about a fallen world that we live in. Have you heard of this before? That we were all, born in sin, and it was the original sin that Adam and Eve did, and then now we all deserve to suffer, so he technically doesn't have to stop good people from dying, or I don't know. It's really flawed thinking. Like, it's really toxic at the core.
I can see that for sure.
But that's the argument. It's like this is not a contradiction the way Tyson has set it up.
There's a lot of like circle arguments I find in religion.
Of course.
Like, there's a reason for everything and there's an excuse for everything, which I don't think is fair. I don't think that every religion is toxic. I think that that's really broad, because there are thousands of religions in the world that you and I don't even know about.
Sure, but like when we talk about religion, we're talking about like, I think the 90% of people who follow religions follow like 3 or 4 main religions.
That's true.
So like, sure, there's a lot of other religions.
I might be wrong.
I'm pretty sure there's stats backing that up, right? There's only 8 billion people in the world, and 3 or 4 billion of them easily are associated with a couple of religions. So
yeah, I've always thought that religion was something that made death easier. Personally, because death is something hard to wrap your mind around and be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And if you think that you have something after life, it makes it a lot easier to swallow.
But then, should we just feed these like happy pills to people and like with false ideologies? Like, say, I think the same thing's true about like astrology.
What do you?
Right, like people like I don't know what you think about astrology, but people.
I don't think anything about astrology.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people ascribe like what's happening in their life, like negative things, positive things. They don't take personal responsibility. They're like, this is my sign is like inducing this thing that's happening in my life.
Yeah, some people do that.
So I don't think that's really healthy behavior to like.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like if that makes them feel better about dying,
Maybe.
and like if they feel better about dying, thinking, hey, there's reincarnation. People think that too. Like if they think, hey, I'm gonna get reincarnated after I die, and that makes them feel better, then
okay, but
it's not harmful.
Here's the obvious flaw to this thinking is that there's people who will like the straight up examples like martyrs, right? People who will literally go like, suicide bomb or some shit, thinking they're gonna go to heaven. People who essentially
violence.
like.
I'm talking about things that aren't.
Okay, sure.
Violence.
Even if it wasn't violence, right? Think people that spend their whole lives in like following a strict religion.
Mm-hmm.
Staying away from whatever it may be, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, because of their religion, not because of their personal choices,
mm-hmm.
right? And the aim is to get reincarnated in a good place or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their thinking, is because they were told since they were a child, you need to do this, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That they feel like they need to do those things to go to this higher place that doesn't necessarily exist. So technically it could be like detrimental to their life. Like they could be...
You're thinking, yeah, they've done all these things and they've wasted their time and like their entire life, but at the end of the day, that's their decision, right?
I don't think so, because they could have chosen those things, but if you're told as a child to not do X, Y, and Z, that's influence, right?
But there's people born into religion who choose to not be part of it anymore. Like I had friends that were Muslim and they just decided they didn't want to be anymore, and that's their choice, right?
Because that's where the toxicity of the religion comes in. You know that
but they've
in Islam, if you leave the religion, you're actually supposed to like get killed for it. Like that's actually like.
Yeah, well,
the religion.
That's a toxic part of the religion. Like, I don't agree with that. That's not something that I think is right, but it's at the same time, like, I don't think people should do that. I don't think that murder is right. Yeah. Obviously, right?
A lot of religions will justify murder straight up, right?
Yeah, that is true. I know that.
It's like, why do we have these ideologies that are, like, supposed to be, like, they can't be criticized because they are sacred, because they're religions. Whereas if you flip this to any other ideology,
I think that things can totally be criticized.
Right?
I don't think that religion is exempt from being picked at.
That's what you think, though, right? There's obviously people who
there's
don't
people
agree with that at all,
with me, right? Like
there's countries who have laws against like blasphemy and talking against the religion, and will straight up like execute people for like
pretty much laws against human right. Like you can't speak your opinion.
Yeah, but like. You do see how religion, I think, a lot of times has like a very obvious like.
I think spot in. I think that in terms, cherry picking can be okay actually, because if somebody's cherry picking only the like if they say they're following a religion, right, and they follow a religion that can be kind of
shady,
a little shady, and they cherry pick all the good parts, and they're like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with that, but I'm gonna base my morals off of the good parts of this religion and make myself a better person doing so.
Don't you think that's boasting the overall ideology as a whole, though?
What do you mean?
Like, say, like, if I were to cherry pick X religion, right, and be like, okay, I only follow 20% of the stuff in there because I think it's good. And
you don't have to consider yourself part of that religion to do that.
But a lot of people do, right? Obviously, like non-practicing Muslims or Christians or whatever, that's obviously a term, right? Non-practicing, you've heard that for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
So I feel like the idea that now you can group, like, when you're like, okay, there's like 2 billion Christians in the world or something, right? That statistics alone gives you a lot of like reinforcement to a possibly unhealthy ideology. Does that make sense?
That's fair, but I think there's a lot of things that we entertain just to make people feel better.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, like, if somebody's gonna be happier and like a better, more like, I don't know, my moral alignment is obviously different than anyone else's. Like, what I think might be good might be something that other people might not agree with.
Okay, but if the whole idea is that we just put up with all this because it'll make people feel better at the end of the day, you can obviously see the argument how religion as a whole has made a lot of people in the world feel a lot worse.
No,
right?
I see that.
Like, globally, especially in countries outside of where we are right now.
I'm saying, like, that those people are separate from people who are genuinely using it to make themselves better. You know, like the people who are like assholes. I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah, you can swear, but like, do we really need? Is the only way to get people to feel better or do good is to tell them that there's like a supernatural guy with a beard in the sky or something similar?
I don't agree with that.
Right?
But
like, I think there's better ways.
I think that people, like, regardless of even if we purged all religion, people would make stuff up anyway.
They would. Astrology.
So it
right?
really doesn't matter if we kill all religions at the end of the day.
Sure, but then by that logic, could you be like, oh well, if we stop teaching, if we don't teach science in class, they'll just teach other shit or whatever. Like, could we, like, do we throw away facts just because people will come up with alternative facts? Like,
well, I don't think that we should throw away facts, but
I think a lot of times we do that to protect.
If you think about it, psychiatrists do the same thing. They'll allow you to believe certain things that make you a better person. Like, if it's gonna make your life run smoother and it's gonna make you a happier, better person, and it's not affecting other people around you, like, if it's not causing a negative impact on other people around you, then they'll let you do it.
I think I just generally, for many years, just because I grew up in a super religious theocracy country, I saw religion as obviously creating a negative effect to, like,
fair. You have a different experience than me,
so,
right?
like, I can't even fathom how that would make sense, but, like,
what I mean is, like, people who pick from the Bible.
Right.
And sorry if I'm taking...
No, I'm just curious if this guy's trying to pass us or not. That's why.
No, he's back.
Yeah.
But people who pick things from the Bible, they pick, like, they cherry pick from it. They pick the things that I would consider to be good, and they leave out the things that suck, like
some people do,
and like sexism and
but then
stuff
there's
like
people
that,
who
right?
pick specifically things.
There's
right?
people who don't, and I think that those people should be shamed. Like, trust and believe, I think that people who are bad should be shamed. Like, boo you suck, you know?
But should we shame the people or shame the ideology? Like, don't you think that's, like...
Specifically, like...
Because they're just following what they think is the good moral thing to do, right? This is, like... If you're a good Bible-believing Christian or whatever, you're a good person, colloquially.
You gotta use your brain at the end of the day and decide...
Good argument, but, like, I agree with that fully.
You can't just take something entirely for what it is and look at it and be like... I'm just gonna, like...
What if I told you that this was given to you by a deity who knows a lot more shit than you could imagine? Then that argument becomes shady,
then you have to risk going to hell for better judgment, I guess. Like...
would you? You might. There's people who wouldn't.
But that's
people
their
don't want to go to hell,
choice,
dude.
right?
Hell's a scary fucking place, the way it's set up, so...
I think that if they choose to be, like... I don't know what I would consider to be a not great person. If they choose to have...
A sinner.
A sinner. If they choose to be sinners and awful... No, I'm kidding. But if they choose to follow those things, then obviously I'm going to be like, you suck, and I'm going to tell them
you suck.
You're a really awful person for believing that.
Well, you can tell them you suck until there's a whole big group of them that come and behead you for your ideas. And then you suck doesn't go very far.
I think that at the end of the day, they'll kill each other because there is, like...
Religious infighting?
Yeah.
I think that's wishful thinking, but, like...
There's, like... Well, no, I mean...
See, if you're saying that I think they'll kill each other, there's probably, like... Why do you think that, though?
Just because
like they're
people
inherently
are willing
like
to fight for what they believe in, which it's like it's really sad that people do that. Also, if you ask,
is that you?
Hello. Yes.
Okay.
If you ask two people from the same religion to describe their God, they will describe it differently.
Of course.
Which tells you that it's up here.
There's no consistency. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you. Thanks a lot for doing the thing. This is the channel name, by the way, if you want to check it out. All right.
RideLight.
One word. All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Much appreciated. Have a good day. All right.
You too.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You don't have anything in the back, right?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See you later.